rates.
National Assembly hails armed forces sacrifices as foundation for a greater Nigeria.
United in our shared commitment to remember, pray for, and honor the courageous men, women of the Nigerian armed forces.
Zamfara State greets as Operation Fansanyama frees hostages, neutralizes bandits.
Nigeria joins African nations in endorsing Kampala Declaration on Food Security.
Underscores our resolve to address emerging challenges, harness new opportunities, and build a resilient, inclusive, and prosperous agri-food system in Africa.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall take a look at boosting the potentials of capital markets.
The capital market has been a crucial driver of economic development in Nigeria. But there's no denying it has faced serious challenges. Low liquidity, limited investor base, and regulatory gaps are some of the biggest challenges.
Indeed, Yere, even with milestones like the demutualization of the NSE in 2017 and the capital market master plans, there's still a lot of ground to cover. Now, what will it take to unlock the full potential of this vital sector?
Maybe it's about embracing technology, some have said, expanding the investor base or strengthening regulations. Whatever the solution, it's clear the capital market holds the key to transformative growth if properly leveraged.
Indeed, without technology, most things don't move these days. You have to embrace it, and that's what we'll be exploring this morning, how to turn the Nigerian capital market into a formidable engine of wealth creation and economic growth.
Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria today. We'll speak with industry leaders, regulators and private sector players to unpack the challenges and opportunities in the capital market. I'm Henry John.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. We're live on the network service of the NTA, the first for the week. Chukudi Okolo-Baja will join us later on Newspaper Review.
Welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Up next is Newspaper Review.
Newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okolo-Baja is seated here in the studio looking gentlemanly. Cool colors.
I have told you that my New Year resolution
is
one that is going to devastate my enemies. Sartorial outlook.
Do you have a
name them?
Do you have enemies?
Name them. Name them.
I know Sabi do enemy. Good morning, ladies. How are you doing?
Good morning.
The cold won't relent.
Yes.
Juma will say this is not cold.
It's not cold. Come on. It's not cold.
Just see you again.
It's not cold. So how was your weekend?
Lovely. Could be better, but we thank God for small mercies as always.
Yes. So let's see what happened over the weekend into Monday this morning. I'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. And below the masthead of the Daily Trust newspaper, airstrike kills 15 in Zamfara. with kickers. They are vigilantes. That's coming from the governor of Zamfara State. We killed bandits. Nigerian Air Force debunks that. You find the details all on page 4. A side piece of the picture story, Lagos-Calabar Road project missing in 2025 budget. Want to know why? Find out on page 54. Shake-up in army. Oluyede moves to bolster anti-terrorism fight. Details on page 9. Minister Jega commends Zulum over ranches for herders. Find details on page 46. Carter sought my release from Abacha's detention. That's coming from the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo. And the picture story you see there, President Bola Tinubu receives in audience the chairman of Fast Holdco PLC, Mr. Femi Otedola, CON, during Otedola's visit to the president in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates yesterday. Enugu Safe City inside Governor Mba's digital transformation agenda. Find that all in the inside pages of the Daily Trust. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Governor Peter Mba, and other guests watching a demonstration during the opening ceremony of the Command and Control Center of the Enugu Safe City, a digital security system built by the state government recently. You find all these stories on page 20. Nyere?
All right, let's see what this Nigeria is offering this morning. The lead story here says, looted funds, that's the kicker. Nigerians deserve full disclosure. The writers, lawyers, CSOs want government to render account of status of Abacha or the recovered funds. Outrage over Diziani's loot as U.S. directs on how $52.88 million should be utilized. That's on page 4. You want to see that? Interesting read, I assure you. Beside the masthead, pensioners raise concerns on discrepancies in payment of 20% arrears increase. Pensioners raise concerns on discrepancies in payment of 20% arrears increase. That's on page 5. And below the picture story, we have alleged misuse of Cybercrimes Act. SERAP drags federal government governors to ECOWAS court. Details on page 10. And beside the pictures right here, we have troops kill 25 terrorists in Zamfara. Rescue 7 kidnapped victims. Details on page 10. And below that, a neuropsychiatrist blames rising rate of depression, suicide on social media. Page 7 has that. Let's move quickly now to the leadership. The leadership leads with 5 governors may dump parties ahead of 2027. Riders, PDP jittery over Umba Oborovuri Eno Fubara. Oti in the spotlight as Labour Party crisis lingers. They won't dump platforms for APC. That's coming from AIDS. Details on page 4. Of course, 2027 is already closed for politicians. Above that, tax bills show Nigerians consultation report. Bochi governor tells presidency. That's on page 4. Rent default cases rise over hardship, cost of living. All right, above the masthead, troops neutralize 25 terrorists, destroy Bello Tuja's camp. That's on all the papers this morning. And beside that, Jimmy Carter saved me from Abacha's gulag. And that's coming from Obasanjo. Let's see some of the headlines just beside the picture story here. This one says, what scarcity hits Mina? Vandals blamed. That's on page 20. You want to find out all the details? Pick up a copy of the leadership. Below that, IDP camp will soon be history in Benue. That's coming from Aliyah, and that's on page 16. And finally, from the front page of the leadership this morning, we have FCT community hails Wike over road construction. All right, Chukudi.
Yeah, let me just talk about this one quickly. Looted funds. Nigerians deserve full disclosure. It's not likely that the looted funds are re-looted, as social media would easily rush to. But in cases like this, it is necessary for you to dispel any doubts, to particularly mention those funds as you expend them. True. It helps messaging. I think we should think about that. Air strike kills 15 in Zamfara. They are vigilantes we killed bandits. The governor is saying they are vigilantes, or they were vigilantes. NAF says we killed
bandits.
We killed bandits. The war against bandits should be an all-out one. But when a situation where a friendly force, the vigilante S, comes under fire, allegedly by the governor, does not help those friendly forces to be in real concert in terms of, combating a common enemy. We really have to be careful about this, because I'm thinking about the level of depression that sets in when you are aiding the fight against terrorism and friendly fire kills. That friendly fire does not interpret itself as friendly. It's not something is wrong there. But again, it's an allegation. Only an investigation will reveal whether the governor is right or the NAF is right. We are only saying that in that theater, extreme caution, extreme, not real, extreme caution should be taken.
Extreme.
That to make sure that we do not begin to mourn over acts we embarked upon because we wanted those acts to help us correct some evil on the ground. Shake-up in the army, Oluyede moves to bolster anti-terrorism fight. It is still in the same vein. More boots on the ground, maybe even more intelligence, and even maybe more than that, cooperation between the civilians on the ground and the military, which takes us again back to what we just talked about. But I think Nigeria is winning the war. Turji Bello is really in a panic. I think so. Things are happening in Zamfara. His days are numbered, as the military said.
I pray to that.
I pray he surrenders. Yes, nobody wants anyone to die, really. You understand?
But I don't think somebody like Turji will just surrender and just give up himself.
Well, let's not think for him. Nothing is impossible in the world,
No, and the social media is actually not helping matters.
Social media is not helping matters. Neuropsychiatrist blames rate of depression, suicide on social media. You missed that.
I read it.
You read it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is that you cannot sieve the truth from falsehood anymore. When you begin to hear the likes of a man who's going to become the US president, January 20, when the richest man in the world begins to say you don't censor anything, let people have free speech, fact-checking is no longer important, you shudder. Where is the world headed? Truth has become malleable. Truth has become something you beat into your own perception. And that's not good for us.
It's not good for us, but well,
it's not good for us.
We as citizens have to sit up.
Minister Jega commends Zulum over ranches for herders. When I talk about Zulum, then the NDLEA man, some people get jealous.
Why?
Zulum has done it again. I like that man. Till we solve the farmer-herder crisis, I don't know whether what was proposed by the former president is the solution in the South. What would we call it then?
Ruga.
Ruga. I don't know because of space. But some kind of arrangement needs to be on the ground. Ranching, whatever it is, some accommodation needs to be worked out. If that does not happen, we are going to see a lot more mayhem, in the days ahead. So I like what Zulum has just done.
And that is a route for cattle coming in from Central Africa, from Chad, from Libya, into Nigeria through Mafa.
It's a great transit point.
Through Gomborungala, Mafa, Dikwa, and then into Maiduguri.
I wish I knew the north the way you do.
No, it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful place. Actually, Mafa is a beautiful place, and there's so much arable land there. They can farm, and they can also have the ranch. And before we go, we have our hearts goes out to the people who lost their lives and property in LA, California over the weekend, and the fires are raging The fire is still raging, destroying homes. Our heart goes out to them for this level of destruction.
You know the depressing aspect of it. Only 27% of the fires
Yes.
has been put out.
Yes,
That is not good. The way the fires rage, and God forbid, if that kind of thing happens there, actually it happens there, we just let it burn itself out. That's because we don't build houses the way they do there. The white man could push his house in between vegetation and all that. When dryness comes, it becomes a fodder, you know,
Yes.
or rather it becomes something easily inflammable. If that kind of thing happens, I'm beginning to think, what helicopters are we going to deploy to pour all those liquids? Putting out the fires?
Like I said, the social media, the hate in the social media over this incident is just alarming. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation, which borders on boosting the potential of the capital market, here's a background report put together by our correspondent, Timothy Yusuf.
Capital market is a financial market where buyers and sellers trade financial assets such as stocks, bonds, and currencies. Analysts believe that boosting the potentials of the capital market in Nigeria is crucial for the country's economic growth and development. A review of the immediate past year, 2024, according to analysts, revealed that the Nigerian capital market experienced a mixed performance in 2024. The analysts disclosed that the all-share index of the Nigerian exchange witnessed periods of volatility influenced by global economic trends, domestic policy changes, and investor sentiment. It was also observed that despite the challenges, the Nigerian exchange saw several notable listings and fundraising activities, including the listing of some major companies and the issuance of bonds by both private and public sector entities. The Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) was commended for the continued implementation of regulatory reforms aimed at enhancing market efficiency, transparency, and investors' protection. Findings similarly showed that there was a noticeable increase in investors' participation, particularly from domestic investors, driven by efforts to promote financial inclusion and literacy in 2024. For this new year, 2025, expectations are high for a recovery in the global economy, which many believe could positively impact Nigeria's capital market. This means that as the global economy recovers, investors' confidence is likely to increase, driving growth in the market. Secondly, financial experts believe that the Nigerian Stock Exchange is expected to continue its efforts to diversify and innovate, introducing new products and services to attract a wider range of investors and issuers. The increasing adoption of technology and digitization is expected by stakeholders to transform the capital market, exchanging efficiency, transparency, and accessibility. The Security and Exchange Commission and other stakeholders are expected to intensify efforts to educate investors and protect their interests, promoting a more informed and confident investor community. This year, the Nigerian government's focus on infrastructure development is expected to create opportunities for the capital market, particularly in terms of fundraising for infrastructure projects. As the market continues to evolve, it is essential for stakeholders to work together to promote a more vibrant, efficient, and inclusive capital market that supports Nigeria's economic growth and development. Good Morning Nigeria is in this direction, engaging stakeholders for the way forward.
All right, many thanks to Mufi Yusuf for that background report. Now joining us for the conversation on boosting the potential of the capital market, let me introduce Dr. Emomotimi Agama, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria. I'm sure it's the first time here, and I'm sure saying congratulations on your appointment is in order. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and Happy New Year.
Aye.
Both to viewers and especially to you guys.
You're welcome. Also here, a regular, but I'm sure this year, your first time?
No, 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 no.
Oh yeah, he was with us last week. I remember. Many thanks for joining us again, Professor Uche Uwaleke, Nigeria's first professor of the capital market and President Capital Market Academics of Nigeria. I'm very glad that you could join us again today.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Nigeria. Please let me join you to congratulate him on his appointment. The typical case of round peg in a round hole.
Wow, that's great. So we're going to get some good vibes.
We're going to charge Uche for the congratulatory message.
For free. Okay, let's bring in our guest joining us via Zoom from Lagos. It's Olorupo Dada, 13th President, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers and Chairman of the Council. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We're glad to have you join us.
Yeah, good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for having me. Good morning, DG and my prof. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Professor Uwaleke, I would like to begin with you. You know, when I was going over this topic, I suddenly realized that today we'll use the opportunity to educate and inform Nigerians on the potentials of the capital market. And I would like you to explain to us the workings of the capital market and how it can, empower Nigerians and promote development in the country. Give us a breakdown.
Thank you so much. And I would like to be as simple as possible. When we talk about the capital market, it is simply a market where funds can be raised. Those who need funds can come to also obtain funds from those who have, surplus. The capital market is a place where, over the years, we've seen the government come to raise money. Companies too also come to raise money. And when they raise this money, they're expected for companies, for example, to use them to expand. When companies expand with the money they're able to raise, what happens? It creates job opportunities. When government also comes to raise the money, they're expected to use the money to put into developmental projects. Okay, so that way you find the capital market contributing to economic growth and development. Then you also have, on the other hand, investors, the suppliers of the funds. It's also a market where people can save. You can invest in a company, and then of course the company will give you at the end of the year. If the company does well, the company will give you dividends. And when you also buy a company's shares, for example, and there's an appreciation or the price of the share increases, you can also obtain what we call capital gain. So on the part of is a place where people can come to invest. On the part of those who are also looking for money, is also an opportunity for them to come and raise long-term funds. Now it is different from the type of money you get from what we call the money market. That is largely from the banks. The banks can only give you short-term loans. But if you want the money that you can use to develop long-term, medium to long-term, okay, if you want to borrow, for example, 5, 10, 15 years, the best place to borrow that kind of money is the capital market. If you're looking for short-term money, less than 1 year, you can go to the banks, to borrow. So the capital market is there for long-term development, and that's why we say the capital market is critical, in any economy for development. And then going further, it is just like any other market, and it has products. A market has products. A market also has buyers and sellers. I've talked about the buyers and sellers. Now, what are these products? The common ones we know are, shares, ordinary shares. Okay, we also know about bonds. Okay, so these are the two traditional products that we'll have, in the market. We have other products, but these ones are the very traditional ones. So people invest in shares, people invest in bonds. Those who are also trying to raise money, they use those instruments, shares to raise the money, and they also use bonds to raise the money. So capital market is a very important, aspect of the financial market, and is very critical, in economic development.
All right.
And that's why that market, because it is where investors, go, the markets need to be properly regulated. investors, need to be protected. Okay, and that is where the Securities and Exchange Commission, comes in. The SEC is the apex regulator in the capital market, and we also have operators that enable this process. Okay, stockbrokers, for example, are major operators that enable the process of intermediation, taking these funds from those who have to those who want to have. And I'm happy today the president of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers is also with us on this conversation, because the stockbroking community is a major player in the Nigerian capital market. And of course, when you talk about raising funds, there are platforms that enable those funds to be raised. Platforms such as the Nigerian Exchange, that used to be called Nigerian Stock Exchange. Nigerian Exchange is a platform that enables the process of raising funds, and those that participate there, as I said earlier on, are the stockbrokers. Stock Exchange is just one of them. There are other platforms. I'm just mentioning the main boss.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Many thanks, Professor Waleke, for that explanation. Quite simple and direct.
Yeah.
I must thank you for that. So let's get to Dr. Agama now. Now we have an understanding of the capital market and what the Securities and Exchange Commission is all about. But I'd like you to just quickly give us a breakdown of how the capital market fared in 2024, just so we can set a tone for this conversation.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's indeed a pleasure to be speaking to Nigerians via medium this morning. The capital market in the year 2024 was fantastic. That's, the short term I'll use in terms of what had happened. We were 37, 39% up in the all share index last year, 2024. And of course, one of the best performing in Africa. Besides that, besides performance itself, the question is, how did the capital market help in the development of the Nigerian economy? And precisely, I'll bring to bear here the recapitalization exercise by the Central Bank of Nigeria. As you are all aware, the banks are a very, very important element in our development and in our economic sphere. Last year, 2024, the Central Bank came out with a regulation to increase capital for all banks. A lot of people, thought it was too much a daunting tax for the capital market, because where else would the banks who already loan money short term get money for other than the capital market? But of course, the capital market came to the rescue. And what did we do? For all of the issuances that happened in the market last year, we were able to raise more than 2 trillion, precisely about 2.2 trillion naira for the banks, which means the capital market is actually the element that helps to galvanize growth and development, like Professor had just spoken about. So for us, it was a fantastic year nonetheless, because besides the banks, other institutions also came to raise capital. And capital market, as we know, is the engine of growth for any economy. In fact, the common saying is that it's the barometer for any economy. If you want to test and understand the strength of any economy, test the strength of the capital market. And so it was very important that the capital market was tested. We've been in office now with the gracious appointments of the new board of the SEC by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the 19th of April. He brought into regulation what you say professionals to be able to manage capital market regulation. And for the first time, we could say clearly that government actually situated the people that were required to regulate the market in the market. And that for us is very important. It's a test for us who are the managers of the capital market, as it were, being the leaders of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that test, we're making sure that the confidence reposed on us by government is actually seen to be manifesting in the way the market is growing. And so the market for 2024 was fantastic. Beyond the bank recapitalization, another area that it was important for us to look at is the area of the mutual funds. the collective investment schemes. The collective investment schemes are, a part of the market system that allows people to diversify their risk via, a different angle besides going straight to the companies to invest. So, Professor was talking about, shares, right? In the collective investment scheme, what you do is that you get a bucket of shares, right, and ask people to invest. So if you're investing through a collective investment scheme, you probably will be investing in 10 companies via one route, as different from going to invest directly in any company. It reduces your risk, it diversifies your potentials, and of course takes care of the ups and downs in the market whenever it does exist. And it is, for us, a very great area, a very good area for Nigerians to invest in, because when you do not understand it, don't go into it. But with a collective investment scheme, you don't need to understand it, because somebody is there that will understand it for you and invest on your behalf, understanding the vagaries of the market, the dynamics of the market, and how it runs. So the collective investment scheme, as at 2024, raised about 3 trillion naira in the Nigerian economy, So it tells you the development in the market. Besides that, there were a lot of government bond issuances. Speaking to what he also said, you talk about infrastructural development. There is no economy that can actually grow without infrastructure. And the only place you can get long-term capital, which is needed for infrastructure development, is the capital market. So there's always been this mistake of people going to, the money market to loan money that will be used for long-term projects. It is a recipe for failure, total failure. The only place you can get that money, that kind of money that you need for a long-term project, a long-term projection to achieving the goals of government, the goals of the institutions, is the capital market. So it becomes very, very critical that we all understand the functions and the value of the critical market, of the capital market. But what have we done at the SEC to be able to give assurance to Nigerians around coming to the capital market? Because before now, the question was, the time processes are very, very long and arduous, so you can't actually plan with it. But we've changed all of that. Now, for the capital market, time to market is 14 days. It means that if you come to the capital market with all of your documentations right, in 14 days you get an approval to raise capital, a long-term capital. This was never the case. At a point in time, it was about 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years. But we cut all of that short. We are using technology to be able to achieve this. And that's why we have what we call the e-offering platforms, which allows Nigerians out of their phones are able to make investments without necessarily going to any bank or any other place to do so. So for us, we are very confident that what the issues or the things we've put in place in the capital market in the last 9 months of our existence has actually transformed the market. It is just the beginning anyway, because there's so much to be done. And it's important to mention here that in the year 2024, there was a landmark, event. And what's the landmark event? The passing of the new RSA, the Investment and Securities Bill, was passed by the National Assembly in the year 2024. That is huge, because that bill is robust, is copious, contains everything you can ever imagine in the current time and looking into the future, right? So we believe strongly that with the conclusion of that process by the National Assembly, it will be sent to the Mr. President for assent. And for the Mr. President that I know, he will do everything to get it signed almost immediately, because it is actually a vehicle for development of this nation. We want to mainstream the capital market into national development. The one major factor why things are not moving the way they are is not taking advantage of the value of the capital market. The capital market is actually essential and useful for every sector of the Nigerian economy. Is it agriculture? Is it housing? Is it transportation? Is it the oil and gas industry? Is it manufacturing? Just name it. There is no part of our national development that does not require the strength and the hands of the capital market. So it's only when we start turning to the capital market, given the value that it has, that is when we start getting the benefits of the capital market. And I believe strongly that 2025 will be a different year in that respect.
Indeed, 2025 will be a different year, and you talked about the investment and security bill. You shed more light on that. I'll pause you here when we return. And you also said if you do not understand it, don't go into it. And now, Olorupo Dada is the 13th President, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers and Chairman of Council, is one of those people who make us understand how the stock market works. I was talking with the head of business desks in NTA here, Benny Adams. You know, I was looking at the markets while he was packaging, and I said, the markets look good. That was on Thursday for Nigeria and Africa. I said, yes, the market looks good, but unfortunately, most people don't know the potentials in this market, and it's so frustrating. So I would like you to explain to us the potential of the stock market in Nigeria and how we can achieve the shift for understanding.
Thank you, and thank you for having me again. As already defined by the Prof, capital market is a market for long-term investment. It's a market where securities are bought and sold on long-term basis. This makes the difference between money market and capital market. For money market is a market where securities are bought and sold on short-term basis, while that capital market is for long-term basis. Now, going back to your questions, the potential, the market is a place where companies, institutions, and government can raise money for infrastructural financings and other needs of the government. The whole idea is that if you use short-term fund to fund long-term investment, there will be a mismatch. So that is why we encourage everybody that needs long-term fund to come to the capital market. Capital market is the agent of development, catalyst for that development, and that is what we do. And as stockbrokers, we are intermediary between sellers and buyers of securities. And that given where we are in Nigeria as it is today, we feel that it is the capital market that government can achieve this $1 trillion economy. As it is, we are promising, given the size, the depth of the market, with the breadth, the depth of the market, the liquidity in the market, we are of the opinion that the market on its own, the capital market on its own, can generate up to $500 billion for this government. In other words, looking for the $1 trillion economy, the first place to look at is capital market, and the first place to develop in this economy is capital market. But having said that, there are other issues that we have to look at. Like the DG has said, for people to take us serious, we must have good laws. So we want to thank the Parliament for passing Investment and Security Act, and we are now asking Mr. President to sign the bill into law without delay. That will be the first indications that the government is serious about attaining $1 trillion economy. And having said that too, we are canvassing for policies on behalf of government that will facilitate investment in Nigeria. Government is an enabler, so we are saying that government should provide an enabling environment. What are these enabling environment that we are talking about? We are talking about the rule of law, that if you seize my property, can I get it back through the instrumentality of the law? That is what we are asking for. We are asking government to provide infrastructures so that everybody, if you are setting up a business, it is not, there won't be any problem creating your own road, getting your own security, etc. The role of government as it is not to be creating jobs for people, is to set up an enabling environment that will trigger individual investors to set up company and create job for individual and pay tax to the government. So the potentials of the market is very enormous. anywhere in the world, it is the agent of development, and that is why we have regulators and other stakeholders managing the market. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mr. Olorukbo Dada. We'll get back to you, but let's come back right here in the studio, and I'd like to engage the DG of SEC. When you spoke earlier, you said to test the strength of any economy, you must test the strength of the capital market. You talked about glowing about how the capital market, thrived in 2024. But I'm sure that Professor Waleke would agree that for the economy of Nigeria, it didn't really thrive in 2024. So help me explain. Because, I mean, there were issues, of course, as a result of subsidy removal, floating of the naira. I mean, there were a lot of pressure on the economy. You know what the interest rate was like, inflation rate rather, what the inflation rate was like in 2024. I mean, so the economy wasn't as fantastic as you say for the capital market. Tell us, why did we not feel the impact, that the capital market had on the economy?
Thank you for that question. It's important to explain to Nigerians that for every good thing that will finally come to bear, there must be some teething times. Those were the teething times. If you look very clearly, you see that the president engaged in so many reforms. And that was because before now, things were not good. Right. So, and it was important that you have a president that could take very bold steps in taking decisions that will finally culminate into prosperity. All of the issues that were raised in 2024 has been negative. We're towards, a prosperous 2025. Irrespective of the fact that there were pockets of successes, like we said, like the capital market, it was important that we had, a very good tax regime. It was important that we were able to deal with the issues of subsidy. It was important that we were able to deal with issues of insecurity. All of this were done by the president, courageously, making sure that the platform for growth is set. It would have been a total disaster if we relied on the situation we had on ground. So all of the issues that came up in 2024 was towards a successful and progressive and sustainable 2025. So you see inflation, yes, it came up, but you can see that it is moving up and down, which means it's nearing a bottom up, a situation where we can now say, okay, this is actually where we are. There was no reason why we'll continue to live in a mirage, knowing fully well that there should be some structural changes that should be done. And that's what Mr. President did, and he is still doing. You can see the developments, you can see the constructions that are happening, the road constructions, and all of those kind of developments. You can see the investments in agriculture, you can see the fiscal side, the policies that are being put in place in the fiscal side, rejigging the tax law in order that everyone will be involved. It will be totally unfair that there's no justice in tax. That is exactly what the new tax reform bill is working to, making sure that justice in taxation among Nigerians.
DG, I was expecting that you would speak about, how the capital market, assisted small and medium-scale enterprises in 2024. Because, of course, we know that's a major driver of the economy. Because when I talked about the economy not thriving, we know that so many small businesses folded up. Some are, I mean, the issues, as regards small businesses. Because, of course, when you talk about the capital market, you only hear about big companies, the banks, and all of that. So how did the capital market assist the small and medium-scale enterprises to thrive in 2024?
Thank you for the opportunity to bring that to board, right? So the capital market did that. How did we do that? We have what we call the crowdfunding rules. The crowdfunding rules was specifically, created for small and medium-scale enterprises. It came out of the Jobs Act of the U.S., wherein it's covered after the global financial crisis that companies, that institutions, small institutions do not have enough access to capital. And what do we need to do as the SEC? What we need to do is to provide platforms. And that platform, the crowdfunding platform, allows small and medium-scale enterprises access the market without meeting the full disclosure requirements for bigger companies to access the market. The problem we have is about education. A lot of people do not know. Why we strive to get people to know. And that's the reason why myself and, of course, Professor and the president of the stock of the CIS are here. We are all stockbrokers. Unfortunately, we are chartered accountants as well. What we want to do is to bring the knowledge of the capital market to the forefront of Nigerians. The Capital Market Academics Association, which I also am part of, strives to do that. We have various programs, the financial literacy program of the SEC, trying to do that. And if you check around, you now see billboards by the SEC all over Nigeria speaking to the capital market and letting people know, including companies, the value and the strength in the capital market, the ability of small and medium-scale enterprise to come in. What has hampered the small and medium-scale enterprise long before now has been the issue of structure and governance. What the capital market tends to provide to these institutions is structure and governance. Because without structure, it would be unfair for you to invest in it. But with structure, yes, you can invest in it, and you also are aware that behind that structure is a regulator that is watching events. So clearly, for us at the SEC, one of the major drivers for us in the year 2025 will be to support small and medium-scale enterprises. And what have we done? What we have done at the SEC in the year 2024, we came up with a novel idea. We created the Office of Small Business Advocacy. So, speaking to what we are doing, enabled by the powers that have been given to us by the president, is to provide solution. The SEC in 2025 is going to be a solution provider for every aspect of the economy. We want to be on the table, making sure that we help out in building this market, in building the economy, and in building the financial system. So the Office of Small Business is a new office set up by the SEC to take care of the issues around the small business. And we are into collaboration with some other organizations in trying to make sure this happens. If you know very well that one of the major drivers of our economy in the year 2024 and moving even to the year 2025 are the fintech companies. All of the fintech companies, majority of them are small businesses. We have introduced new rules into the digital space. It's called VAS, the Virtual Asset Service Providers Rules. What do we intend to do? We intend to take care of the challenges the small businesses face. For technology, is it for agriculture? Crowdfunding principally was a driver for the agricultural sector. We want to continue to do that. We want to expose Nigerians to the various opportunities that exist in the capital market. We are saying we are an open capital market. Come and discuss with us. We are there to give you the help that you need in building a capital market that is resilient and sustainable even for the future.
Indeed, I'm sure Nigerians watching this program now will say, wow, I didn't know anything about that, because you talked about billboards, you talked about other ways of, educating and enlightening Nigerians on the potential of the stock market. But I would like to ask a question to Professor Owaleke. There are reforms, there are regulations, but there also exist gaps. So how do we begin to address these gaps, like reaching out to people through the subnationals, through the local governments, to bring them on board? Because, like we say, the capital market is the engine room, the lubricant of the economy, and with a population of 250 million Nigerians. Yeah. What, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the percentage of people who even know or are aware of investment in the stock market? And we shouldn't also forget the cultural barriers. Yes. There, let's get, yes.
Before I even speak to that, permit me to say that the markets, just as he rightly said, in 2024, did well against all odds. Against all odds. If you look at our ranking in Africa, we were the third. The best performing stock market in Africa happens to be Ghana. The Ghana's stock exchange recorded year-to-date return of 56%. The second was Zambia The Lusaka exchange posted about 44%. Nigeria, we recorded 37.7%, so we're number 3. Fourth position was by Nairobi, and the fifth one was BRVM, the exchanges for WEMU, the West African Economic Monetary Union. Okay, so we did well. And if you look at also the performance of our markets, if you compare us with other emerging markets, frontier and emerging markets, you also find that we are tops. Because if you look at what the average was for if you use the MSCI index, you look at the average, it was just like 7%. Okay, but we did 37.7. And again, just as you rightly said, we had a whole lot of activities in the market last year. The primary wing of the markets, the primary markets, where we have, we experienced new issues, was also, somewhat active. We saw a number of companies come to list. Transcorp Power was listed sometime in March last year. Aradel, too, another energy company, also listed in October. So between the two of them, they added market cap of over 5 trillion. So such that today, market capitalization, has increased to as much as 62 trillion, naira. And he also mentioned the issue of banking sector recapitalization. That also helped to turbocharge, the market. A number of companies did well. So when we say average was 37.7, there were companies that even posted 800 and over 800% return. A good example is Sony Assurance. Okay, it started at just 1 naira, January. By end of December, it was already at 7 naira. So we had other ones like that. Owando, you can mention Owando. You can mention, Boa, and a couple of others, that did well. So the market overall, against all odds, did well. And we were also saying the contribution to GDP. If you look at GDP performance last year, third quarter, the latest result we have now is third quarter of 2024, right? GDP grew by 3.46%. If you disaggregate the growth rate, you will see that the financial services sector, where the stock market belongs, grew by over 30%. So, and of course, the banking sector dominates that sector, and we have the banks listed on the exchange. Okay, the SEC is a secondary regulator, to the banks. So the financial sector has been, there to help, pull the economy, from the doldrums, and through this intermediation, process. So you can't take that out. So the financial sector has been contributing to the growth of the economy. Now, whether the impact is not so much felt, it's largely because, again, of the fact that if you look at the size of the market relative to the size of the economy, it is small. Okay, we say, if you look at it today, I've mentioned 62 trillion as a market cap, right? For equities alone, equity is 62 trillion. Okay, the total GDP of the country, I was checking the trading economics data. GDP of Nigeria, $362 billion. You have 60 trillion market cap. If you convert that to dollars, if you use 1,530, you get like $40 billion. Okay, 40 billion on 362 will give you less than 12%. So the equities market to GDP is less than 13%. We have a capital market master plan that is targeting 20% to GDP. And the interesting thing, with what is happening now, with the rebasing of GDP that is happening now, once GDP is rebased now, that share will now further drop. So the size of the market to GDP is small. That's why you can't find, even if the market is doing well, you really cannot see the impact. So for you to see the impact, we also need to grow the market. And one way by which we can grow the market is to also encourage more companies to come and participate, come and list, especially small and medium enterprises, which is where these reforms too come in, the tax reforms that he talked about. Okay, the tax reforms, currently packaged, will go a long way to enable small businesses to grow, because it has a lot of exemptions for small businesses. If you're a small business, defined as any business with a turnover of less than 50 million naira, okay, you are not paying tax. The whole idea is to allow you to breathe, to allow you to grow. So by the time you grow, you're now in a position to begin to also approach the capital market for more funds. Okay, and that way, you can grow. Today we have over 5 million, if I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken, 5 million companies registered with the CAC. Well, how many companies are listed on our market? Just 153 companies listed on the Nigerian,
What do you attribute to that?
Yes, a number of factors, including even this awareness that he talked about. Awareness. And I'm happy to also say here that in the last 9 months, we can say that there has been, in terms of market education, market awareness, a lot of traction has been recorded. At least I teach in the universities. I teach in some other, not just one university. I'm also a visiting professor to some other universities. So I can tell you that the level of awareness, at least in the last 1 year, has really increased. One that SCC has done recently, okay, thanks to him, is to set up a committee to review the curriculum for Nigerian universities, and the capital market curriculum for Nigerian universities, the one developed by NUC. Okay, there's a committee that the SEC put in place, to do that, because we over the years we've been talking about introducing capital market studies in tertiary institutions, introducing capital market studies in secondary schools over the years. So in the last few months, that effort, as I said, has gained traction. So a lot of awareness is being created, and it will go a long way to also impact on mutual funds, which you also mentioned. Because for me too, one way you can galvanize small savers to be part of the capital market is through mutual funds, through collective investment scheme, because that is where you can, for example, John, if you want to participate, if you have your 100,000, you can put, Jomai, you bring your 200,000, I bring my 100,000, we put the money together for investment. Because if I say I want to buy, for example, I want to buy a stock like Seplat, I won't be able to buy Seplat because one share of Seplat is 5,700 naira, just one stock. For Airtel is over 2,000 naira, just one. So I won't be able to get those stocks. But if I go through a mutual fund, I should be able to now participate in.
How safe are these mutual funds?
No, of course, very as safe as well, of course, safer than most asset classes. They're much, because you are also investing. Remember, he mentioned it. When you invest in a cross section of securities, you are diversifying, well, your portfolio, and also minimizing your risk. So to that extent, mutual funds are safer than direct investment, in the market, because you have a manager there who has the skills, who understands the market, who is helping you to do the investments. So to that extent, they are safe. And remember too, the mutual fund is not only invested in the shares. The mutual fund is also investing in very safe, secure securities, such as government securities, such as bonds. Government bonds are very safe. Okay, they're also investing in money market treasury bills. They're also safe. That is why the mutual funds route, is quite safe. Now I have veered off, completely. To your specific question, I don't remember what.
Yeah, what are the gaps? How do you address the gaps in the regulatory, framework of the?
Okay, well, talking about the gaps in the market. Well, you can also speak the gaps. You can connect them with the challenges. Okay, I just mentioned one. The market is still small. To that extent, it poses a barrier. I'm aware too that even in the capital market master plan, he mentioned mutual funds, size of mutual funds, 3 trillion. The target for 2025, okay, in the master plan is, I think, 4 trillion. The target is also saying that we expect to see a minimum of 5 million active trading accounts. But so far, we don't have that. So we still have, if you like, going by that master plan, we still have a long way to go. But the good thing, or the good news, is that if you look at some of the things that have been put in place, especially recently by the Commission, one can say that pretty soon, we will achieve all of that. So in terms of gap, yes, the challenges are there. He also talked about what they have done in terms of time to market. Reducing time to market to 14 days, that's a feat, okay? What I will also want to see, in that market, is also reducing the transaction cycle for equities. Transaction cycle for equities is still something that discourages people from investing. That's T plus 3 days. So in some other jurisdictions, you have it as T plus 1. So in other words, if you sell stocks today and you want to get your money, the next day you should have your money, or even instantly. But in our own case, you have to wait for some days before you get your money. So that transaction
is it just
cycle.
some days? Anyways, I think I should pause you at this point, Professor Owaleke. Let's head to Lagos now. You were talking about how to get your money back and all of that. That brings me to the question around security and integrity of capital market transactions. I'd like to quickly paint a scenario for you, Mr. Oloropo Dada. I know someone as a student many years ago, almost 18 to 20 years now, who bought shares from Dangote Flour, to be particular, and then bought from a communications firm that still exists today, and it's been how many years? And, I spoke with her recently, and she says, well, she wished she had spent that money on some things in school, clothes and all that, and because till date, she's not been able to get the money from, anything from the two companies. There's nothing. I mean, there's no trace. But she keeps going to the Securities and Exchange Commission platform, and she sees her name, with those shares that she bought as unclaimed dividends. She doesn't know, and all of that. And then, I mean, a lot of people's monies are trapped in this capital market. How can we're talking about knowledge. Some people know about it, but they're afraid because they are not sure, of how to benefit maximally from it. Some have even codenamed, the stock market as like a cult. Just the specific people who understand it are in it. Just very few people can get into it. But speak to us, Pierre. How can we reposition the capital market just so that everyone can take advantage of it? And then there is transparency. It's clear. Anyone can participate, get their dividends as and when due.
Thank you. The benefits of investing in capital market, let me just quickly say that. Number one, dividend payments. And number two, capital appreciations. What I mean by dividend payments is that every year, whenever dividends is declared, you will be paid, you receive your own. And again, when you have not sold the instruments, the value can rise. Those are two benefits that you can derive simultaneously. Having said on the issue of unclaimed dividends, the process is very simple. I don't know if the person you refer to as a stockbroker, the first point of contact is your stockbrokers. When you register with your stockbroker observe your KYC. He knows you very, very well, so he can go ahead and claim those dividends for you. The process, like I said, is very seamless, and there is integrity, there is transparency in the process. As we see, we are Chartered Institute of Stockbroker. Our members are regulated by SEC, and that is just to let you know that the process is transparent. So if you buy shares, go through the right channels, contact your stockbroker. Your stockbroker will register on your behalf and claim your dividend. You receive your dividend in your account. And if you have gone to SEC portal, you see your name that you have on claim dividend, contact your stockbroker. Your stockbroker will retrieve all the dividend for you within a week. That has been the process. So the process is seamless. You cannot lose any money within the industry as long as you follow the right channel. But the problem we have is that people keep complaining. Maybe you do not have address, or you have different names, you cannot sign your signature, you do not have KYC, you are not properly identified. Those are the major issues. With this, no stockbroker would like to assist you if you have those problems. So that is if you can guarantee that you are the owner of those shares, and you can give evidences that you bought it, and the time you bought it, I do not see any reason why you cannot get your dividend as and when due. And if you have unclaimed dividend, and like I said, there are routes. Contact your stockbroker immediately. Let him know. Observe your KYC. Let him know when you bought all this instrument, he will claim the dividend for you, and you will get it without any
past. One of the things we've done at the SEC most recently, since I come into office, is to set up what they call the Office of Unclaimed Monies. Yet again, the Office of Unclaimed Money is speaking to issues like this that you are talking to, right? Making sure that if you have a challenge, there is somebody there ready to talk to you. Somebody there ready to guide you through. Somebody that feels your pains and understands exactly what should be done. That's why we have that office. So it's in existence, it's functioning now at the SSC. So we definitely are going to provide information on how you can reach that office easily so that we can deal with challenges like this. We are aware of those challenges, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. We want to make sure that people who have dividends unclaimed get their money as at when due, without any problem. We are also investing heavily in technology to making sure that this process is handled by you on your smartphone. This is our desire. This is the way we want to go. And beyond all of that, before coming to your question, also, at the SEC, in our short term, we have also brought in the Office of Municipal Bond Development. What is municipal bond development? We are speaking to bonds issued by local governments in Nigeria. We have 774 local governments in Nigeria. Of these 774 local governments in Nigeria, it's only one local government in Lagos, Lagos Island local government, that has issued a bond since the existence of the capital market. How does this help us? It helps us by way of bringing development to the grassroots, to me and you in our local government, either by way of developing the roads, by way of developing agricultural resources, by way of developing human capacity, by way of instituting investment habits in the market. Unfortunately, due to some management issues, it went down. This time around, we are very critical. Our monitoring capacity has improved and is getting technological. So most of those things will not happen again. We want to, the point you raised about what is the impact, we want to see that happening. And we want to also continue to run impact analysis to know how does the capital market help you. So for us, it is critical. Coming to your question about how do we encourage FDIs and FPIs, clear. If you provide an enabling environment, if there is transparency, if there is integrity, if there is rule of law, and that's exactly what we have done with the ISB. The ISB is a huge document that contains all that it needs to strengthen the confidence of the people who want to invest in Nigeria. We want to be able to allow them see that the justice system within the capital market is very, very strong and approachable. And that's why the strengthening of the Investment and Securities Tribunal, which is the investment court, as has been adjudged by the Supreme Court of Nigeria, is very important. Therein lies in the power of efficiency, wherein cases are brought before the court and they are discharged within record time. This is very critical for any foreign investor. Knowing fully well that we are ready for business in Nigeria, the capital market is that institution that's standing in between to get that to happen. And we are very sure that with the way we are going, certainly we'll get the better of the benefits in the capital.
All right, many thanks.
Yeah, tell your friend now that she's going to get her money. And remember that, the president has always said that every foreigner, wherever he goes in the world, that Nigeria is ready for business. Yes. So we have to take a break now. When we return, our conversation will continue. Don't go away.
Shall I get to Professor Uche Uwaleke now, who's right here in the studio with us? We're about rounding up the conversation and begin to look at, what 2025 would look like. And I would like you to speak on reforms that are needed, to strengthen the regulatory framework and improve corporate governance in the capital market, just to make it, more efficient and, like he said, better than 2024.
Yeah, thanks so much. Talking about the reforms for regulation, I think Dr. Gama will be in a better position to speak to that. He has already said we are happy that the Investment and Securities Bill, has been passed. Of course, it contains a whole lot that will help strengthen the market. Now, speaking about 2025, I am very optimistic. I'm bullish that 2025 will be a lot better, not only in terms of the market, but even, in terms of the economy, as a whole. Remember, too, the performance of the market is also a function of the economy. Okay, the economy also determines to an extent how the market performs. And the other day I was looking at I was listening to a speech by the IMF MD, Mrs. Christinina, who was, talking about a steady economic growth, for the world globally. On the 17th of this month, the IMF will be releasing their World Economic Outlook. So it's expected that the world economy will maintain its, growth steadily. It's also expected, according to her, that globally, on the average, the world will experience disinflation. Disinflation means that the inflation rate will on the downward trend. We are also beginning to see that in the US, in the UK, in the Euro area, which is also why, even in the US today, the inflation rate is getting close to the Federal Reserve's long-term target of 2%. So when inflation is coming down in these economies, developed economies, interest rates are coming down, it is positive for Nigeria. Okay, because on a risk-adjusted basis, investors will want to come to Nigeria to invest. So if you look at it globally, the local market, our domestic market will benefit from all these developments, globally. Now, talking about locally, again, if you look at what they have put in place so far, on the part of the central bank, for example, we expect that in 2025, central bank will not only pause monetary policy rate hikes. I expect that there will be a pause even from this January. And by, say, second quarter or third quarter, we expect to see even easing of monetary policy. Once you begin to reduce rates, monetary policy rates begin to come down. That's also positive for the equities market in particular, because investors will now want to do more of equities. Then there is also the issue of banking consolidation that is still going on. Banks are still coming to the market to raise funds. Access Bank has been able to do that. Other banks are also following suit. That's also a potential for 2025. Then, again, on the part of the central bank, recently the central bank introduced the electronic foreign exchange matching system, okay, which to a large extent will also go a long way to stabilize the exchange rate, because stability in the exchange rate is also important for foreign investors, to come in, and also local, investors. And central banks, I also want to mention, has also introduced recently the, what they call the non-resident investment account, okay, which is what they are trying to use to also attract diaspora, those Nigerians in diaspora, to invest in the domestic market. So these are potentials that the market, have, the market, have in 2025. And there is also, on the part of the central bank, there is also this recent currency swap arrangement. The currency swap arrangement with China will also help to strengthen the naira. Okay, so these variables will work in favor of the market in 2025. Now, on the part of the fiscal side, earlier on talked about tax reforms. Now, one of the things tax reforms, will do is to, for example, on the part of individuals, increase disposable income. If we say, as being canvassed in the reforms, that anybody earning 800,000 naira and below will no longer pay tax. Before, or currently, the first 300,000 is taxed at 7%. The reform is saying once you earn below 800,000, no more tax. So if you look at it on an annual basis, you're likely to save up to 2,000 naira in a year. Imagine if those savings are channeled to mutual funds.
Your tax is removed automatically from the IPPI's office.
That's what I'm saying now. So once
even if you're earning 100,000,
no, if you are earning once you earn 800,000, they won't remove it again. That's what it's saying. Yeah. That's what the proposal is saying. And if you're a company, and I mentioned earlier, you don't have up to 50 million turnover, you don't pay tax. So before you come, let me just mention, those things will really help the market, because some of those funds will enter the market. That's for reforms. Now, you're also looking at the recent thing the Federal Ministry of Finance did. 2 weeks ago, the Federal Ministry of Finance launched a 250 billion real estate fund. That's also something that will be positive for the market. But let me make this general, recommendation that I expect that in 2025, what I expect the government to do to further see how they can incentivize listing on the market. For many companies to come and list. In some other companies, I was looking at the case of Jamaica. Jamaica Stock Exchange, for example, used tax, holidays. If you list for the first few years, you don't pay tax. So in Nigeria, we can say when you list, maybe the first 1 year you don't pay. That will encourage people to come and list.
Yes.
Okay, there's also the issue of even privatization. Private government should try to privatize companies through the market. That's why we're expecting that NNPC, in 2025, part of NNPC should be listed on the exchange. Okay.
So you're saying it's not
limited.
listed already on the exchange?
No, NNPC is not there. We are saying it should come and list. Okay, and in 2025 too, I expect the government to borrow more using infrastructure bonds. 9.3 trillion is what the government has said they will do in 2025 as new borrowings. So they should come to the market and use infrastructure bond for that. Okay.
Yes,
so
regulations, reforms, but as always, when we talk on this program on issues like this, implementation is key.
That's why I'm giving this advice.
Yes, it is advice.
Yes.
So let's quickly, as we're rounding off the program, let's bring in Mr. Dada into the conversation. The DG Sec talked about embracing technology, and emerging trends and opportunities in the digital economy. So how can we begin to leverage on that so that we have a generation, who have information at the tip of their, fingertips? They just go there, and I believe there will be a lot of interest from this generation to invest in the stock market to be able to earn money, because we know that if you really invest in the stock market, really invest in it, you can live your life off on dividends of the stock market. So how can we begin to leverage on technology and also emerging trends, just like other climes, to pull in more young people into this market? And I was listening to the NOA DG at the National Assembly. He said most of the time they are not used the way they should. And in Nigeria, we like listening to music when we're raising awareness, educating people and all that. So how can you leverage and bring in NOA into this conversation to be able to reach out to people, undeserved areas where there are people who are interested in investing in this, especially the younger generation, and I believe they should be encouraged.
Thank you. Yeah, if we are to move forward as a country, there is need to promote technology and digital platform. Bearing in mind that 70% of the population are youth, and that is what they want. But I want to tell you today that this has been recognized by SEC, that they have licensed some cryptocurrency exchanges. These are digital platforms where the youths can trade, even though it involves higher risks. But these are digital platforms, and I think the SEC is doing that for especially the youth. And again, we have e-platform offerings as it used to be, where you want to buy shares, you just there is a technology built, there's a platform for that, so you do not have to go and be filling paper. You just go to your telephone, access it, fill your form, and submit it. That will be the end. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mr. Oluropo Dada. Let's get to the DD of the Security Information now, Dr. Emomotimi Agama. Very interesting conversation, very enlightening. I hope that, like you said, the conversation continues across different platforms just to get more people, on board the capital market. But I want to know how you intend to carry out your function of regulating, or if you like, monitoring the companies that are listed. Professor Owaleke talked about incentives to get more companies to list. But you see, it's not about getting companies to list, it's about getting them to be functional, to thrive, just so that they can, pay dividends to whoever is investing in another. Because, I mean, in the past, we've seen companies come on the stock exchange and eventually fold up, or some are still existing but never ever give dividends, to investors. How do you want to carry out that function, just to make sure that the companies that are listed on the Securities and Exchange Commission platform really, do the needful to investors?
Thank you again, and I will emphasize it for the upton time that for us at the SEC, zero tolerance is the name of the game. And that is to say that every listed companies must fulfill their listing requirements, both to their primary regulators, which are the SROs, and that's the exchanges, and to the SEC. And by so doing, we have a department called the Financial Standards and Corporate Governance Department at the SEC, Financial Standards and Corporate Governance Department, so at the SEC. And that department's responsibility is actually, facing the companies that are listed on any of the exchanges. We are retooling that department to make sure that every company that is listed on the floor meets its requirements. If they do not meet their requirements, we are going to go in there on time to be able to deal with the challenges that exist. It's not in our interest to say, okay, get them delisted. No. What we want to do is we want to be more responsive and empathic. What is the problem? How can we help? Because when you delist a company, you have actually, injured the market to some extent. You injured the investors. So we don't want to do that. So what we are doing now is complete engagement with the CEOs and the members of these institutions. But I also will put it back. Every Nigerian who is a shareholder must decide to be active. How do you get active? Attend your AGMs. You see the financials of the company. It's your company. So it is your responsibility to actually speak out, to let them know, let the world know. And of course, the SEC will come in. So this year, 2025, in fact, we just engaged the Toronto Center, right, in Canada, to come help build my team on risk-based supervision. We will unleash the SEC on every company and every product that's in the market. In the year 2025, what we have also done is that the ISB has actually increased the fine for Ponzi schemes, and we're going to get each and every one of them out of the market.
That's another, topic for another day.
But just quickly,
scheme, yes,
just quickly, before Jimmy would ask you the last question.
The prospects, and how it will, shape the market in 2025.
Yeah, but you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'm talking about the companies. You just talked about the companies. Yes. What would happen to companies? Do you monitor, what the companies mention as a dividends at the end of the year? So should change. Investors.
Yes, so if a company says, I'm declaring dividend, in fact, the rule says that if you declare dividend, you must pay in 48 hours. You must pay. If you don't pay, it's a violation.
How do you check that what they are declaring is the right figure? It's not.
They have a financial statement.
Okay.
That financial statement is reviewed by us, it's reviewed by the exchanges, and it's reviewed by the auditor. So clearly, before it comes to us, auditors in Nigeria must have certified the financial statement. And when we review the financial statement and find out that there is a misrepresentation, any auditor that is involved will be banned for life.
Other people will say, so, can that be done in Nigeria?
Yes, it can be done. We have done it before.
So investors should be safe?
Yes, they should be safe. The responsibility of the SEC is two-pronged. One of them is investor protection and market development.
So how are you regulating Ponzi schemes here?
So we are not regulating Ponzi schemes. Okay. So what we that if there's a Ponzi scheme, we bring them down. Any Ponzi scheme is an illegality. And the new ISB has a penalty of 40 million naira for any such Ponzi scheme. We have actually brought a lot of them to book. Recently, last year, we had Ishala, right? they came posing to people that, you know, they are going to provide, you know, some very fantastic interest rate, which was totally wrong. And we got them. We took them to court, and they were jailed. The NBA Forex, we clamped down on it. The SEC, with the required resource, right, will do anything that we could do to get down these people.
Required resource, you're not getting the required.
Well, the truth about it is that regulation is expensive.
Yeah.
Regulation is expensive. Somehow people do not know. And we are between the devil and the deep blue sea. We do not want to increase fees to the market, yet we want to regulate.
So you don't want to you don't want to capsize.
Exactly. So we have to manage it, and that's why we're deploying technology, you know, to a great extent. The federal government is, you know, actually supporting us. In fact, we were with the ministers last week, and she voiced her, you know, position about supporting the SEC and the capital market to grow to the next level. So we will continue to do what we need to do. We will continue to research. We will continue to build capacity. We will continue to deploy technology. We will continue to make sure that people are enlightened. People get to hear what we want to have to say, provide information via various means. For information, what we've just done, one of the things we've done into what we want everybody, every Nigerian, to hear the voice of the capital market and to be heard in order to be able to provide solutions, you know, to challenges that they all.
So what's your podcast link?
So about once we launch it, we're going to launch it in the next 2 weeks, and that will be available to all Nigerians.
So what's the message to Nigerians going into 25?
Oh, the message to Nigerians going into 2025 is that be hopeful. The renewed hope agenda is certainly something we are really, really sure we'll achieve. And we will do all that we need to do to make sure that we provide protection for investors. We will develop the market, we will provide new products, we will provide opportunities, and rebuild Nigerians' confidence in the capital market, making sure the capital market actually is a solution provider to Nigeria's economic problems.
Many thanks, Dr. Emomotimi Agama. It was a pleasure to have you on the program. Very interesting and educative conversation with you, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And we hope that all that you have said, you will get to see them. And when we review 2025, of course, in the next 12 months, it will be a success story. Thanks once again, Dr. Agama.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, it was a pleasure to also have Professor Uche Uwaleke, Nigeria's first professor of capital market. I must highlight that. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. And of course, we appreciate Olurokbo Dada, the 13th President, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers and Chairman of Council. Many thanks for joining us all the way from Lagos. For the week, to join us again tomorrow for another packed, interesting conversation. I'm Yenwe John.
Yes, you'll be here. I won't be. And I'm Juma Yusuf. Do have yourself a great day. Bye.